Hello everyone, this is Flight Sim Studios, and before we start today's tutorial, I would like to make a small disclaimer. We had to change our channel's name due to some conflicts that we experienced, and after that, I'm not gonna go into too much detail with that, or actually, I'm not gonna go into any detail. Um, we decided to change the name to Flight Sim Studios. Hopefully, everybody will be happy and we're not gonna have any kind of conflicts. Without any delays, let's start on today's tutorial or training, however you're gonna call it. Exciting topic today is the North Atlantic navigation. And in front of us now we have the North Atlantic plotting chart. And I'm not going to go into details of how to plot our flight using the organized tracks. It's all about using the other space and flight plan with user preferred routes, we call UPR, and off tracks. Before doing so and explaining how we can do that in Simbrief, because it's everybody's favorable flight plan tool, I mentioned before, I will say it again, PFPX, if it was still under development, it would have been the best software to do your flight planning. However, we stuck now with Simbrief, which is not really user-friendly in terms of implementing real-world procedures to our flight plans. So, having said that, let's start with what I'm going to discuss in today's topic. Apart from the North Atlantic tracks, we have other tracks to navigate through the Atlantic, and everything is based according to our ETOPS or EDTO certification. If we are non-ETOPS at all, that means that we have to fly in within or away from an adequate airport 60 minutes. And these are the blue routes here that you see in the plotting chart, going North Atlantic and crossing those routes. There is a case though, those two routes here that I'm showing you in the map, you need to have some sort of clearance to get through that, because this is a North Sandwich oceanic clearance and you need a clearance to cross it. There is no HF communication around here, so you need to have no, sorry, disregard that. No VHF communication within those routes, so you need to have an HF on board. There were some cases that aircrafts crossed those routes without any HF communication. If you have a CBDLC, you can do that also with CBDLC without having to check in on an HF communication. But you need clearance for that. So prior of planning to do such a route, you need to have a certain clearance. That route and that route. And the other routes, no problems here. We have clearance. We have VHF communications. And the other routes are the Tango routes here in the South Atlantic, going from Portugal to the Azores and to Canary Islands over there. And you need a certain clearance also to use those routes, which are highly used by the European charters going from the UK, Spain, France, Germany uh, to the islands. Uh, Today's topic will be crossing the Atlantic with 120 minutes of ETOPS or EDTO. In some documents, estimate diversion time, it's the same with ETOPS. So basically, we are referring on the same thing. I will show you now a couple of documents. Uh, what is ETOPS? I'm not gonna go into too much detail. Most of you already use this thing, simming around, and you already know what is ETOPS and how to use it. Most of you guys are using ETOPS 180, uh, using the 787s or 777s or A330s or whatever. But there are cases, it depends on the company and the certification and the maintenance records and everything, uh, that certain aircrafts cannot be certified. Even if they are capable for 180 or even more, they are certified for 120 or 135 minutes away from a suitable airport. That being said, that means that it depends on the company's operations. If you don't need the 180, because your operation doesn't require any 180 ETOPS 180, you don't have to get that certification and pay more and having to maintain your aircraft with specific instructions and keep all these maintenance records and everything. It's less time consuming and it's cost efficient. So basically, you get your certification in accordance with your operations. If you can get away with 180 or even 135 minutes away, then you go ahead and do just that. Don't just go hit 180 just so because it's out there. You go up to the point that it's required to complete your operations from A to B. Um, North Atlantic airspace and flight planning according to the documentations that I found in Skybrary. It says it's all about the North Atlantic organized track system, which we're not gonna touch today. Maybe briefly at the end, closing up to the stage. But in today's example, I'm going to depart from Portugal, Lisbon, and I'm gonna cross the Atlantic with 180 and go to Newark, which is a pretty simple flight plan. But we need to know how to cross it and how to properly place our airports around the map, because Simbrief, I realized when I did the example, I realized that Simbrief always considering 180, and even if you click on 120 mini ETOPS requirement, it doesn't pick up the correct airports, suitable airports for your flight. So you need to manually add it there. So before you do that, you need to know from where you are going to operate, how you are going to operate, and before that, you need to check also the weather. We have with 180, we have some flexibility to go close to the North Atlantic tracks, to the lowest track, if we have to avoid the weather uh, on the southern part of the Atlantic, or we can go even southern. I will show you in Skybrary. So basically, either we're gonna go ahead and hit the North Atlantic tracks below, let's say, put it all there. Okay. Woohoo. So we can fly that route, crossing the tracks like that. No problem there. We can cross those tracks using the UPR system. it's going to be, but we need to cross it in a certain altitudes, and we're not gonna have any deviations, or we might not be able to get any step climb for that. It depends though, but we can fly such a route, or even if we even want to completely avoid the tracks, we can go a little bit southern here. Um, that's a rough example, what I was plotting, but we can go definitely before we start planning our route with 120. We need to know where exactly we're gonna fly, in which area we're gonna operate. So basically, we're gonna have to operate around here. Sad thing with Sky Vector is we cannot actually properly plot, not properly plot at all the ETOPS circles. That's why in order for this demonstration to be able for you to see, I used that site, this site here, the Great Circle Mapper. I think that most of you checked that site already. So this is the area that we can operate. This light blue area is the area that we can operate with 120. If we go further north, hitting the tracks, we might end up going into this dark blue area, which is not, we're not certified. If we go in the southern, we cannot do that also. So we need to make our way across the Atlantic between basically from uh, let's say 45, maybe 46 north, 45 north, 45 north, and go, I will say roughly 42 or maybe 40. 41, we can do that also as a UPR, but we need to pay attention to what is happening with the weather. Now, the weather is another situation. Uh, it's a little bit difficult if you have to avoid the weather. So let's say right now you see from Lisbon, if we go above the islands, we're gonna have some sort of intense precipitation and clouds and everything. So crossing the Atlantic in this range, and this is lightning, are we gonna be pretty much away from the weather, most of the weather? We're gonna avoid most of the weather, the intense precipitation, and we're gonna be, I think that we're gonna be just fine. So in order to get, let's get started then. In order to get an aircraft on an ETOPS 120, and for today's example, I'm gonna use a 321 Neo, which are capable of 120, and maybe the XLR is gonna be capable of 180. I mean, extra certification is going to be needed, and this we're gonna have this CMP approval, which stands for Configuration Maintenance Procedures, because ETOPS is all about the maintenance and the equipment on the aircraft. So if you don't have those, and if you don't present to the authorities the proper maintenance records that they are required, which a bunch, a huge list about that, we're not gonna get into that, then you're not getting your approval. So basically, according to the documentation for extended diversion time of operations, EDTO. It is the same with ETOPS as I mentioned earlier. We need to have this, uh, we need to follow this and to have these approvals here. So basically, minimum approval list, a minimum of 3 months of approved or proven operations in EDTO. You get these 3 months that you are uh, flight planning accordingly. You keep the maintenance records and you have all your flight plans wherever you fly with a specific aircraft. You keep on having, you keep on applying 120 rules, even if it's within Europe or within the States. You don't really actually get to fly out of the ETOPS area in the ETOPS area if you're not approved. So you actually uh, creating scenarios, ETOPS scenarios wherever you fly for at least 3 months, and you have to document everything. You keep all your flight plans or your maintenance records, everything, and your flight crew training. Then proving approval is case by case. It depends on your based again on your operation and approved CMP, as I already said, configuration, maintenance, and procedures. Obviously, an airplane time limited system capability uh, to be authorized for 120 or 138 minutes, and so on and so forth. Flight crew, flight dispatcher, and maintenance personnel training provided. Everyone is getting a training for ETOPS. I do have a training from my uh, instructors in Sheffield School of Aeronautics, where I got my license, and I got the ETOPS training also. And you have to undergo an ETOPS training also from the organization that you are working for. Um, and pretty much that's it. Most of it, and the most difficult part, is to get the maintenance up and running with the ETOPS. And this is again another document you can find in Skyberry in regards of ETOPS and route alternates and flight planning limitations. And if you have email or CDL configuration deviation list items, either it's a no-go or a go. You need to take care to pay close monitor on the all the suitable and adequate airports in regards of the RFFS and weather and navigation systems. It happened that we were on the ETOPS, and then we received the NOTAM from our suitable alternate airport that they downgraded the approach from an instrument to a visual, and the weather was below visual because they had a problem. So we had to reroute the flight around, and good thing for us, it was an aircraft with 180 approval, so it was an easy task for us. We swapped the airports around and we sent a new route, and we filed a new flight plan with a new route alternates, and uh, we instruct the pilot with ACARS to get his reclearance in the air from I think that was Sandwich, and they did just that. They moved to a different track, and then we were good to go. It took them quite about 30 to 40 minutes to complete that, but we did that, and because the organized track system is so congested, it takes some time to coordinate all these aircrafts and all these movements. Basically, we had to do that. We did it, and everything is was okay. Coming back to our specific example for today, we are gonna fly from Lisbon to Newark using ETOPS 180, and we're gonna jump into our Simbrief and see how we can do that. Having said that, we'll see also, I didn't check the weather already, however, we're gonna check it together and see how the weather is. And it might come to it might come to a decision that we are going to dispatch our aircraft using ETOPS 120, but it might happen that we're gonna carry this many fuel on board, which will not, because of the weather deviations that we might have to instruct the crew to do, we might end up diverting for technical landing into a suitable airport in order to do so. Or you delay your flight because it's out of the organized tracks, you don't have any problem, or you delay your flight until the weather is improved, so that you can go with the fuel that you can carry and the payload that you want to carry with you. Obviously, there are restrictions out there in regards of payload. We cannot go full load on a 321 and go on a specific 321 that we are using at the moment with the upcoming Phoenix one, or the ones that they are already in P3D. I think that you can use them and try your best. Always a quick reminder with the A320s, we don't have NEOs apparently. However, if you use the FS Lab ones, go with the ones with the circlets because they are more fuel efficient. If you go into Explain 12 or 11, use the A321 Neo, and then we are good to go. I'm gonna use today a 321. I don't know. I did the example with initially with a 320 Neo, but we're gonna check together today if we can do it with the 321. So let's jump into that. Sorry about that. New flight, new flight. Together, trying to structure the flight plan. I'm going to go through also to the North Atlantic minimum performance specification. I'm not gonna go through the entire presentation here. I'm only going to refer to a certain topics, so that you will be aware of what is happening and what we as dispatchers we are taking into consideration. Some of the things that we are taking under consideration. So as I already showed you, the North Atlantic tracking system area airspace, we all know about that. We don't have to go through and read everything. The organized tracking system and the TMI, everyone is familiar with that. Everyone is familiar also on reading these things. I'm gonna go on a later video if you all agree and you want me to do a more into detail tutorial on properly flight planning across the Atlantic. I think that I can do it with Simbrief. The only thing that I cannot do with Simbrief is calculate uh, all the tracks and take the fuel for the most fuel cost, uh, fuel effective track. What I mean by that is when you fly the tracks, you need to make sure that you are carrying fuel for the longest track, because there is a chance that you're not gonna fly the track that you filed due to traffic. So you need to make sure, even if you are planning your flight properly and you need to minimize the fuel that you're gonna take, always consider as crossing the Atlantic taking the fuel for the longest track, and you will be on the safe side. And then all of the considerations that we're gonna go through this document. These, before I start flight planning, these are the Tango routes and the blue routes that I already mentioned on the chart before. Again, a depiction of those routes here. The blue routes, you don't need to be certified, and the Tango routes here. Uh, we can I can throw an example also for those using those routes on a later video. Flight plan requirements, we already discussed that, and this actually is more related to using the tracks and the tracks message. Again, the same, and how we are planning to use the longitudes and the latitudes in 10 degrees of intervals and 5 over the 70 north. Again, this is a description for flight line during the hours, and for the organized tracking system, we're not gonna use that. Flight levels and step climbs, still we're not, we are outside of that, but I'm just going through. We can talk into more detail of what we have to do as dispatchers, and then obviously when we are flying with our preferred aircraft, what we have to take under consideration. HF communication, it's not simulated in any of the in any of VATSIM or IVEO or whatever. It's not simulated properly, so it's like VHF all over the place. But yes, we need to take under consideration HF communication, and before we do that, we check also the weather and the solar effect over the HF communication. The more the heavy as the solar activity, the worse will be the HF communication. So we have to take consideration also that if the solar activity is huge, then we have to avoid routes that they are really close to the north, because um, the aircraft is not gonna have good receptions of the HF, and we need to maintain ourselves close to the VHF communication. So for me, if I had an aircraft and the solar effect was really high, and I will show you where you can find that. Space weather, here it is. So minor, it's not that big of a deal today, but if that was a different story, let's go to no scales. This is, let's say that we have an R4 or 3. Today we are in R1, still weak, but it can interfere with HF. But if we have 3 or 4, 5, it's extreme, no communication at all. So if it's a 3 or 4, you might think of uh, actually going, not using the tracks and going even further more up north and use the VHF communication. I have a chart uh, down further down on my presentation here on the areas that we are covered. Um, yes, exactly. Again, with the documentation and the G3, I already mentioned these two routes that we need to comply with certain criteria, keeping certain criteria and approvals. ETOPS, again, this is a brief explanation. We already know about that. We don't have to go through that. And what here applies for the operations over a route. And I don't want to go into into much detail at this stage. I want to create a short video, but it's already going over 30 minutes. I'm gonna run a little bit further down and go into more the diversion speeds. These are something else that we are taking under consideration when we are calculating the three scenarios, but most of the legacy flight plan systems that we are using these days, they have all these parameters in there, but we still have to check manually our flight plan if it's correctly calculated. If it's not, we have to manually correct it or rerun the flight plan so that we are going to be on the safe side. This is an example of extended range operations for an A330. Obviously, this is an old one. I don't have the charts for the 800 and 900 variants. If it goes outside these circles, these ones, you need an ETOPS. These are all the circles covering 60 minutes. So consider that if you have heavy, moderate, or uh, where is the weather? Here. If you have strong, moderate, it's gonna cover it. Strong or severe, then not do not use these routes here. If you don't have CBDLC on board, and if you have an older aircraft, then you have to go the northern route. You have to follow the northern routes. Here, obviously, you have the coverage of the VHF. Here is what we are covering today with 120 minutes. Gander, Goose, Shannon, Santiago, Santa Maria. Going out from uh, Lisbon, we're gonna go straight out and we're gonna have our first suitable airport, Santa Maria, and the second one will be Gander, or I will see. There are plenty of airports over there to choose from. And then having those two, I'm gonna have my ETOPS clearance in Simbrief, and then I'm good to go. Airplane performance considerations. We talked about that. I mentioned that already. We can go ahead and into more detail if you so want to or wish. But the only thing that I want to mention here is that we need to follow when we are calculating ETOPS. We are actually considering three scenarios from our equal time point that we are starting to divert, or if we have an emergency, we have to divert immediately at a certain point. I will go ahead for the three scenarios I'm having here. These are the minimum requirements for FAA and EU ops following the ETOPS fuel policies. These are a bit old. I need to go ahead and cross-check if this remains the same. I didn't do that, but most likely it's gonna be similar to that. So obviously we have to have the fuel from departure to the equal time point, to the farthest, to the longest one. Same for both EASA and FAA. Fuel to diversion airport from ETP, the ones that we have chosen for. And then for FAA, it's gonna be an approach and go around plus a circuit to land. These are extra fuel. For the EU ops, it's an instrument approach landing. That means, as the example that I mentioned before earlier, that if you get a NOTAM that your airport, the suitable airport, downgraded the approach procedures to non-precision, then obviously you have to change your airport and recalculate the fuel and send it to the aircraft via ECARS. and then they have to reclear themselves, obviously. And then this is the same fuel policy for FAA and EASA, final reserve fuel and specific reserves. Here, in this situation, we also have the ERA, uh, the en route alternate that we can further apply on, and we can decrease our fuel even more, but I will discuss it later on. Not on in today's example, but later on. So three scenarios. First, I will say it will be the engine failure, which no limit, no, it's never limited. I mean that you have the fuel to go with one engine, follow the procedure, the proper procedure from your equal time point or the time that you had that uh, the failure to your suitable airport. It might be the case that let's say that you had your engine failure here. However, due to the strong and let's consider that you had a strong tailwind coming from Bombay here as the example has going straight out. It's not the case. Usually the winds are blowing the other way around, but let's say in such a case, I have Bombay and Salalah here airports as alternates. If I go past the ATP one, then I consider only Salalah. If I'm below that, it might be the case that I can go either to this airport or, or back to my departure airport. This is the case. You need to make to take under consideration if you can go back to your departure airport, then go back because you obviously you're gonna have maintenance. Everything is gonna be you're gonna have a spare aircraft or whatever the case, and then you're gonna go. You're gonna continue on your trip. The second scenario is the decompression. So that means that you have to uh, descend to flight level 100 or MSA and at LRC cruising speeds just in order to long range cruise speed in order to save fuel. If you have enough fuel on board that you can go even faster, then this is something that you will take under consideration on the time of the problems when the problems occur. You will do your calculations. If you have enough fuel to go even faster, you do it. If you don't, you punch in the numbers in your FMC or C or McDo, and you will see the results. And scenario two, which is the worst scenario for me, is the decompression together with an engine failure, and then uh, you need to undergo with a specific speed approval that you will have uh, doing that thing, because you cannot go even LRC or you cannot even go faster or slower. It's a certain speed that you need to follow having this problem. Rarely we experience such a problems, but there is the case. Again, we discussed about that. Critical points, I'm not gonna go and take that. This is the contingency fuel. It's 5%. It depends from if you're operating EU or FAA under EU or FAA regulations. However, you can further reduce that up to 5% for the EU flagships and up to 2 or 3%. It depends on the aircraft. Sometimes it goes under 2 or even 1. It depends on the aircraft. I say if you use an ERA and route alternate, extra alternate, and then the aircraft is kind of reclear itself and you reduce your contingency fuel. We can go ahead and explain what is the contingency fuel and how we calculate it. I will create a presentation for that so that you know, but it's not the case for today's example. Uh, this is the 87. So EDTO approval route planning, as we already discussed, diversion distance determination. We need to and critical fuel estimates. We need to make sure that everything is it looks okay. This is roughly typical to enhance in 60-minute area, 400 nautical miles. Okay, and this is 180. And we created the 207 and 235 just to get around these areas here. So you need to, and also there is more, but you can cover pretty much everything above 235. Excuse me. And these are the areas that they are not covered. 787, they are 360 out of the box if you want, if you have the CMP ready and the maintenance protocols and everything, then yes, you can go 360, but there is no point. Other airports, alternates, I presume that everyone knows about it. The RFSS is the firefighting category, which needs to meet certain criteria and depends on the aircraft. If you have Cat 7, Cat 8, Cat 6 is good to go for bigger airliners. Below that, it's not a good case. With the A321neo, we can go down up to 5 with a special approval from the authorities that the aircraft is registered. 6 is okay, but we cannot go below 5. 6 is if 5 is the minimum, I would say 6, 7, and above. So we need to pay attention also for that thing. And we already talked about that. Area of operations, 60 minutes, 180. We are going ahead and we will go something in between. These are some rough calculations with the true speed, and this is old school, but yeah, this is something that you are being taught during your from your instruction at the school. But we're not gonna go ahead on that thing at the moment. As we already mentioned, NOTAMs, MEL list. We need to make sure that the aircraft doesn't have any major issues, that we will have any penalties, fuel penalties or altitude penalties while trying to cross the Atlantic. The minimums, planning minima, we already know that we need to have at least a VFR or minimum marginal when we are diverting. So we need to pay good attention to our alternate airports, and the crew also, they need to keep themselves aware of what is happening. They can also request from the dispatch to change the airports if they see while flying and they are actually getting the latest weather reports. Maybe they will say, okay, guys, I don't want to fly there. The weather is not looking great, so please change the alternate airports, so on and so forth. This is uh, a software, it's called PPS. It's not the greatest, however, it's there. I have a picture from PPS. It's supposed to be a legacy software, but it's not the greatest. And these are the circles. This is something that we use in real life, and these are the circles, the 180 for the specific example, and we're crossing with 180. We need to make sure with those three airports, because we're going from Sanon, but going from Lisbon here, we're not gonna go ahead and use these airports because in order to do so from here and using only these airports, that means that we need to be 180. So we're gonna use Santa Maria, maybe Gander, Goose Bay, and then go on from there. And let's go into our example for today. Okay, so this is our new flight. So FSS 001, and we depart from Lima Papa Papa Tango, and we're going to Kilo. Uh, oops, yeah, to New York. I'm gonna leave the alternate as is. I don't care at this point. I just want to see to check the route. Uh, Now the UTC time right now is roughly the UTC is 2017. I'm gonna put it in. Let's do 2100, 2200 actually. Usually when we do flight plans for with including ETOPS, we are flight planning them 3 hours before departure at the minimum. The minimum time is 3 hours. Below that, it's considered to be really critical. However, we planning even earlier, and we are cross-checking the winds 3 hours before. Uh, so let's go ahead, apply that. So to 2200, yes. Now I said I'm gonna go with a neo aircraft today. Okay, I think that it picked up the route that I already planned. I think so. Let's see. Uh, they have two profiles here. Uh, okay, let's go with the LEAP one. Constantnex, I'm gonna go 10 for now and check it out later on because I'm gonna try and see how much payload I can take. Okay. So let's see. Let's say that. Okay, maximum zero is 7566. Let's go with 61 tons. Let's see how that will go. Now, we're going to consider ourselves as, you see, the 3% is if you use an ERA, which with Simbrief I cannot do. Uh, when I had the uh, when I had the PFPX running, you could actually uh, plan your flight plan with ERA also. That we had this chance, and we also had um, the tab that we can implement and change ETOPS speeds and attitudes and whatever we had to do. We had these functions active in PFPX. That's why I said that that was a really great software. However, it's not being developed anymore. Aerosoft took the software and it's not doing anything, so it's left behind. And now we have only this one, which is okay, but if we want to be as close as we can to the real thing and growing our immersion of flight planning, because 50% of your entire route is the flight plan. If you know what are doing and why you did it, then you are 100% sure what is going to happen through your route. You know everything instead of having the software here putting out there something, and then the only thing that you do, as most of the pilots, the real life pilots right now, they are doing, they are just looking the fuel, and this and that, and they'll never explain because they never go through that thing. I do these things for you guys just to educate you and to show you how you can do it uh, close to reality and implement the rules, the real rules in your flight simming experience. So let's see, we have this route, we have this, let's say we are EASA. Uh, you see, they say here this is a new thing. Actually, I think it's caused due to the update. Good thing, would you like to automatically select your route alternate? Yes, I would. Uh, but where? Maybe here. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and do that later on. What is that? This is only for FAA, that goes for EASA. These are for extra fuel, I suppose. It doesn't say. Auto, auto. I'm gonna leave it as auto. This route, and this is a calculation of our ERA. That means that the contingency fuel is gonna be reduced with EASA to 3% or even 2. We can select it. Okay, let's go to our ETOPS right now. ETOPS scenario. I need 120. If we go and auto calculate, yeah, now we're talking. I'm telling you guys, yesterday I did the flight plan. It couldn't pick up the proper alternates. So this is the case. Now we are cross-checking the 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 uh, the alternates. I did that manually yesterday and I saved it. I don't know if it picked it up from the database because I saved it. I can prove it. It's not. I'm just saying and validate. And this is a valid ETOPS 120 and this is our route. I'm not gonna change it. I'm just gonna see a little bit of the weather. So I'm zooming in a little bit. So we have this area here. We will have strong headwinds, but the core is at 410, as you can see here. And yes, I'm not seeing any huge problems. Some embedded CBs here, so that means that I'm gonna add extra fuel to the flight just to be sure that they will have enough fuel on board to make some deviation if so needed. I'm happy with that. I have also an array that it's going to reduce our fuel even further. These are the circles. I think when you put the Navigraph, it's even better. But I'm gonna do it day. All right. So these are the ETOPS, the equal time points as we discussed. And now you go ahead and check the weather. And if you don't like one of the airports, then you change the airports to the appropriate area. And there you have it. This is your accurate ETOPS. You go ahead and check the weather. We have the weather here. Uh, no wind indication hue and whoops. Okay, I cannot have it. Okay, the tough. It's light, sour rain, scatter, broken ceiling, 2000 becoming 19 to 21 variable and becoming 10. All right, okay, no major issues. I think that I can go with that airport also and ETOPS exit point. Yep. And this is our other St. John's. Yes, I yesterday picked the same airport and there are some gusting winds. Okay, if I want to change that airport because I don't like it, heavy strong winds over there, so I don't want to go over there. So what I'm gonna do, you see, The weather is not really great. Cape Race. No, I'm not gonna go there either. This is IFR weather, Sydney Airport. Okay, Gander. Don't like the weather in Gander. It's really windy. Now it comes problematic for me. Uh, Mist, overcast. It's not gonna cut it for us. Uh, hmm. We have to check our weather properly. We can go with that weather. However, we need to make sure that we have extra Gander airports. It's full. Coming and then. Okay, this is an IFR one, a VFR one. Yeah, but we need to go in and check the instrument landings if they have everything, no TAMs, if there is any, if they have any issues with that. So what we can do, we can actually dispatch the aircraft like that. We can dispatch the aircraft like that. And because by the time that we are going to be close, it's gonna be an overcast, and then it's gonna be okay. By the time that we're gonna be there close, the weather is gonna pick up a little bit. 30 gusting 20 for a 321 neo. Sustainable winds. Okay, the gusting. Okay, but we need to make sure that we're not exceeding 20. We need to keep a close look at that weather, and with the probability to static moderate shower rains, mist, overcast at 800. Okay, and that is from the 6 o'clock on the 10th. Okay, so let's do an initial calculation. This is our en route alternate. We have also that. Find the route. Oops. It's not doing that. Analyze. Okay. It did right now. Oops. Sorry about that. Simbrief. Okay. So we have the route for the alternate. It's okay. And this is, I think that we had, it calculated also the route to the, in real life, you need to calculate the route also for your en route alternate, which is this one here. The weather for that airport, it doesn't look that bad. Broken at 600, overcast 2000 CBs, 2300 now. I'm gonna be 6,000. No, it's not bad actually. We have only broken at 3000. Now, in this case, you need to go in and check the instrument approaches, and if they have an ILS or an RNAV approach, you're good to go. And you close monitor the weather. If the weather is, we need to have VFR weather or instrument approach as I saw you in the presentation. For me, it's easier if it's a VFR weather. If it's not and you cannot do anything else at the moment, you need to make sure that you have instrument approaches. Because imagine it's difficult when you are diverting you with a difficult problem. If you have an engine failure and diverting and the weather is super bad, I mean, you have a problem. But we can uh, choose better airports when redispatching the aircraft in the air. It's a constant mm, it's a constant check flight watch with that, so you have to make sure we can. I think that we have the ability to go even further to the south for the alternate for the ETOPS, and let's check it out if we can pick up another airport. Uh, Before I do that, I need St. John's. You see those airports? Goose Bay, it's further up north. I don't think that if we choose Goose Bay, I don't think that. Where is Goose Bay? Okay, it's no, the weather is not looking good at all here. We have some St. John weather station. You need to make sure also that the airport it has customs and so on and so forth, because when you land, you need to be able to. They need to have customs and check the airport, the aircraft, and the documents and everything. Uh, as I told you also, this airport doesn't. I don't like it. This is IFR. This is Greenwood. Charlie Yankee Quebec India. Just for the sake of the example, let's uh, check ETOPS with a different airport. This is a best case scenario right now, which it's doable, but let's check instead of Charlie Yankee Tango, let's check Charlie Yankee Quebec India to see. I would put it here, Charlie Yankee Quebec India, validate. Okay, now you see Charlie Yankee Quebec India. This is the circle. So from this airport to Palma, we have this distance here. If you can see from this line to that line, we are uncovered. What is a good thing now that we have these airports here is now we are covered with this airport also, because the weather is better, and we crossing the ETOPS. If we have a problem and we are within the circle of the third airport, then we can also consider, due to weather, to go either here on our if we have the ability, if we don't have the decompression, or we have we also have the fuel for those airports. So I put another airport over there. I think that Simbrief will calculate the fuel for this airport also, so I might be able to have enough fuel to divert to a more suitable airport. And for this case, I might say to the crew that, guys, please consider that I might be re-clear you in the air for different airport pair due to the weather. Be mindful on that, and I will keep close monitor of the weather. As an extra fuel now, I think that this is the passage. I said zero fuel. I hate Simbrief that it doesn't have any. I don't know what is that. It should have written here something. Minutes and fuel. This is fuel, I suppose. But I don't have anything. Here I can write extra fuel due to I don't know, suitable airport uh, being marginal and for weather avoidance and route, and you brief the pilots accordingly. And then I don't know here. I think that it's fuel related, that one. And I don't know what is that, and I don't know what is this. So mm, let's check that here. I will put some, I don't know, let's say 2000 fuel more extra, or we can do it in minutes. Let's say I need another 40 minutes of extra fuel, not 1 minute. Let's say that due to this problem, and hopefully I'm not gonna end up being overweighted. ETOPS, we are good to go with 120, yes. And let's generate the flight plan. I would like to have a pre-calculation before you generate the flight plan so that I will be able to multi-calculate everything. Warning, flight exceeds aircraft range. This is bullshit. The aircraft can do it, but fuel deficit. I'm missing fuel. I did it with the A320. That's is bizarre. So 360, 115 passengers, no cargo payload. Okay, estimate landing weight, estimate zero fuel 61 tons that I said. Okay, cost index. Warning, flight exits aircraft range. Okay, this is not the case. Okay, you see route alternates, route alternates here. These are our ETOPS, and it should have also the ERA here, but it's okay. Um, and route alternate. Okay, this is now our problem, and we need to reduce the weight or even reduce the fuel. These are the case that I already mentioned earlier in the beginning, that now in such a case, either I'm going to redispatch the aircraft, or I'm gonna prepare a technical landing in Palma for fuel. This is actually a great exercise. However, I would love to solve this problem with you in this video, but that will be an extremely long one. It's already 1 hour, and I will split it in two sections, and I will show you in the next video how I'm going to approach this problem right now, if let's say that was a real case scenario. Uh, so yes, I think that the case is due to the jet streams. That's why all the trucks are avoiding it, and that it's a good actually scenario. What I'm considering on doing is, first I will try to plan the flight further to the south, avoiding the main uh, track that uh, the jet stream is following. So look at that. Basically, I'm heads on with the jet stream all the way down. So what I will plan to do, I will go straight in. Here I will find it again. Hopefully, I'm gonna be further to the south and avoid it. This, and I'm close to 360, and the jet stream, if you see here, is from 300 to 45. With the core being at flight level 410. We're not that high, but we are getting there. 360, 380. Okay, maybe I have to reduce my flight level, sticking in 360 all the way in. Maybe that will save some fuel. You don't have to go always higher. You need to consider also take under consideration also these things. So I'm gonna cut the video here, and I'm gonna go up to a part two, explaining how I came about and approach this problem, if any. And I will make a real life decision right now. If I decide to divert the flight for instead of canceling or delaying it for 2 hours or 3 hours, it depends on how long the water will be persist in the area. I'll what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna try my best finding a solution. If none of the solutions that I'm trying to implement is going to work, then I'm going to go ahead and dispatch the flight with a fuel stop in Palma, and then I will continue on. Still, we're gonna be ETOPS 120 from Palma to Newark, because we are going to cross this area here. We need to keep in mind that we cannot be lower than here, but we can cross it in this section here, also avoiding the main core of the jet stream. That was really a good example, and let's continue on part two. Thank you for watching part one. See you all in part two. Thank you for watching, guys.